bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Howdy, folks. How are you? Hope you're having a very good sort of a Thursday, and where you are today hasn't been hammered by hail this big. Been a bit of hail around Queensland, certainly the southeast corner. We dodged it a bit where I am, but I believe a little further north from us might have caught it. So a bit of discussion in the chat about the hail too. So duck and weave, it is the time of year where we can expect it, and look to the west and look for the green in the clouds. That's about all I can say. There was also apparently a bit of storm damage, or rather storms expected down south in Sydney, in and around southern reaches of New South Wales. And, of course, I imagine through the northern rivers if southeast Queensland got hit too. So if you are affected, then thoughts and prayers are with you. Hopefully it's not too bad, just the odd tree down, which is what we've got. And spent the day yesterday carving up a tree that had come down here in Keith's yard, which was a bit tragic. Well, for a variety of reasons. But anyway, managed to get that chopped up, and now I've just got to find a way of getting rid of it, but we'll get onto that shortly. In fact, we'll get onto it right now. I meant to mention it in last night's program, but I'll do it tonight, right at the head tonight, because it's something that's important to me, and I hope that you will be able to help us out. There is a gentleman by the name of Keith whose driveway I'm currently parked in. He's the fellow who had his vehicle stolen with all the tools and associated other bits. Now, found the vehicle, minus the tools, of course, and hasn't got the vehicle back yet from police. Lost somewhere in the vicinity of $160,000 to $180,000 worth of tools off the truck or off the ute and off the trailer. And fortunately, some of that has been recovered. Not the really big ticket items, but some of it has been recovered. Small amounts of it, and he's been able to get small bits like parts of his wallet returned to him, and some paperwork, that sort of stuff. This has been a fairly stressful time for Keith, as you could imagine, and right in the middle of that, he has invited me to come here and get the bus fixed, and do a few little issues, which we wound up starting and haven't yet finished, which is all good. There has been a lot going on, not the least of which that on Monday night, Keith had a stroke. Now, it's a mini stroke. It's nothing terribly, terribly, terribly bad, except for the fact that he's still in hospital. They haven't given him an MRI yet, and he's not home. There has been a little bit of pressure on him aside from losing his vehicle, and that is the fact that he has sold this property, and it's due to settle on the 14th of next month, and part of what I was going to do was help him load up his stuff and help him move it to where they're heading. Now, that's going to be a bit difficult with Keith recovering, and I'm going to ask you, if you're in the southeast corner of Queensland or northern New South Wales, and at some point over the next couple of weeks, you might be able to lend a bit of a hand. Keith is the kind of bloke who's been there for everybody at some point or another. He is a huge supporter of my place on the Gold Coast, as well as the my places in the northern reaches of the Gold Coast, Ormo, Pimpamar, that sort of area, Beenleigh. He is a mass supporter of people like Gerard Rennick and the People First Party. He's the first one there to hand out flyers and wave flags and promote just about anything that is good for the freedom movement. You'll find Keith at the forefront of it. We need to give him a bit of a hand. We need to help him load up a couple of containers here. And if anybody happens to have access to and can do a good rate on a tilt tray that we could put some 20-foot containers on to move, that would be very, very beneficial. We're also going to need a 40-foot container mover, I think. So if you happen to know anybody in that area, could you please reach out to me? And at some point in the next couple of weeks, we might be able to get a bit of an extension, but at some point in the next couple of weeks, we're going to need help, a bit of a hand loading these containers and then shifting them. Don't expect you to come and unload them, but if you could help us get them loaded and get them on a truck, that would be hugely beneficial. And for those of you that know Keith, you'll know that he'll be embarrassed that I'm saying this now and calling out for help. I'm doing so without his permission, without his knowledge. I just know, having been at the property, there's a bit here that has to be done, and we'd planned on doing a fair bit of that last week, this week, and next week, obviously. And it doesn't look like it's going to be able to be done quite the way we'd planned. And Keith will be more of a supervisory role, I think, than an Action Jackson type role, if we can keep him out of it. But we're going to have to keep him out of it because we don't want him having anything worse. So if you can help in that regard, please reach out to me, carl@vofhq.com, and I will be in touch with days and times and places. And if you can help out, particularly with a truck, a tilt tray or something like that, we've got plenty of people with licenses. We just don't have very many trucks. So if you can help, that'd be a huge benefit. Please reach out. Would really appreciate it. And I know so would Keith. He'd be embarrassed for me asking. Macca was first in the house tonight, mate. Good on you. And Bear himself, Big Nevin. I hope you were there. Well, you were there practically same time. And the lovely Sunflower. Gee, it was a bit of a race tonight. I hope you guys are all doing very well. Spazza, Life, the Universe, and everything pushes on there, brother. Tony, what a marvellous man you are. And looking forward to catching up with you when I come down south, or you come halfway up north, whichever way that works out. We'll be catching up. The lovely Sandy at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary too reached out the other day. We were having a bit of a chat, and she has made mention of so many of you that have reached out and said you want to call in, spend a day with the donkeys, so to speak, do what you can to help out, and she is overjoyed. Some people have already done that. So if that is you, then thank you. It is a huge help. And I mean, it's not really the idea to go there and have a tour, all right? It's a working farm and they've got stuff planned to do. So if you just sort of turn up on the day, then be prepared to muck in and help, not sort of get shown around and given the royal treatment. I think that'd be the nice way of saying it. And that's coming from me, not from Sandy. I just know that it's a working property and they have a lot of animals on there, which we love to try and support as much as we can. And you can do that too by buying a lottery ticket at merch.vofhq.com. I think we've sold a bit over 100 in the current lottery, where we're giving away $750 and 1 gram of Ainsley Gold. It's a minted bar, beautiful little bar, and the price of gold's still pretty strong at the moment. So too the price of silver, sitting around just under $73 again, I saw today. And we've spoken about what's going on with gold and silver. So if you did buy it when it was a little more expensive, don't worry. This is what's happening right now is expected. And I think you might find, well, given there's been some news from India, might change the way silver is viewed in many other parts of the world too. So we'll talk about that in the near future. What there's in the house, the lovely Michelle and Margot, and slots of fun. Good to have you back in the house. You received positive feedback today. What the? Positive feedback from last night's show. Thank you, quiet viewer. I appreciate that. In fact, I caught up with a friend today and he made mention of it. I've had a couple of phone calls. So yes, you people tend to like it when I get angry. And okay. If that's what motivates you, okay. I can get a lot more angry a lot more often. I just don't know what point there is to it. I'm sick and tired of the lies that our government keeps telling us. This climate lie. In Victoria, the lies you are being told from that communist cow running your state, and the communist prick that was running it before him, before her, before them. I'm sick of the lies, and I choose not to believe that most Victorians are mentally deficient and cannot see those lies like I see those lies. It doesn't matter what state you're in. Every state's politicians are telling you lies. Senator Bragg got up in the Senate, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday or last night. He made a very good statement to the Senate, basically about how politicians can't be trusted, aren't trustworthy, and how they're viewed by the public. It was made to an empty Senate. You know, there was 2 senators and a lonely dog walking around. What is the point of making a great speech to an empty Senate? In fact, what is the point of making a great speech to a full Senate if you do not have sway in that Senate? You do not have the numbers in that Senate. Because it is quite clear that the people who sit in that Senate aren't going to be swayed by what you say. They are going to be dictated and swayed by what the lobbyists have paid them to be swayed for. What the benefits will be to them in the long term when they ignore what potentially good politicians say and want to do in favour of doing absolutely the opposite to what the people want and look after themselves. And this is where the gaslighting of renewables being our way forward to a net zero future is doing my head in. I am not the only person in this good land who can see the lies of renewable energy. I have absolutely no mathematical skills whatsoever, and even I can figure out the basic numbers do not add up when it comes to big wind turbines and, of course, acres and acres and acres of farmland covered in repulsive solar gathering technology. Solar gathering technology that has been shut down in America. Why? Well, because this huge 2 million bloody gigawatt thing that they were doing, a massive area out in the desert that they'd covered in solar panels, didn't work. It was inefficient. It cost too much to maintain, and they shut it down after how many years? Well, I think it took 4 years to build it, and it was 3 years of operation before they shut it down. A waste of money. But be guaranteed, the people behind the lobbyists, the people who built all that infrastructure, the people who designed the big tower that went up in the middle, the Kash tower, because I don't know if you remember it, these panels, these solar panels in all of this expanse in the desert were all focused to reflect the sunlight to one point, a huge dome or receptor thing that was, you know, I think it was 80 or something odd meters in the air. And it didn't work, or it didn't work efficiently. And of course, anything that flew through that area, any bird, got fried. I'm serious. They didn't get knocked on the head by the big propeller going around off the wind turbine. No, these birds flew through those radiating beams going back to the solar collector, were instantly fried. No more bird. It's like an Indian riding on top of a train back home. They reach up too high and I'm sure we've all seen the videos. I will say, thankfully, in Sydney at least, they're not riding on the outside of the train. That's probably the best way to describe what's going on in Sydney at the moment. They're not riding on the outside. That's a Sydney line. And I've been told to turn my headphones down on train lines in Sydney because somebody could hear the squeaky little noise that comes out the side. Apparently now you're allowed to set up your own battery-powered disco on the train system in Sydney. I guess if you're heading to Parramatta, because it might probably be on the Parramatta line. Could I? I don't know. Maybe not on the Parramatta line. Who knows? I just know it's not me. Do you remember this face? This is the head of the AFP. She has just announced a new task force to target men hunting young girls to coerce them into violent acts. Do you think they're young men like we grew up with, or the ones that we're producing? Apparently not. This woman, before she was appointed commissioner by Kash Patel recently, was an assistant commissioner. This lady is the one responsible for telling us just how anti-Semitic our nation was while the Jewish mosques were being attacked in Sydney and Melbourne. She was the lady who was telling us exactly just how dangerous the feelings were against Jewish people and the incendiary type people and movements who were pushing back against the Jewish communities in Australia, and how awful it was, and it has to stop. She's just not come out and confirmed, but New South Wales police have, the most serious anti-Semitic attacks that were all blamed on, how anti-Semitic we were not actually anti-Semitic attacks at all. They were criminal con jobs that had been orchestrated. Well, they haven't come out and said who they've been orchestrated by exactly, because that would be in the face of saying how wonderful Israel is and we support the Jews, because it was in fact the Israelis themselves, their intelligence organizations, who paid off these numpty no-hopers to go and commit these crimes against their own synagogues. False flagging it. That's called, folks, false flagging it. Then, of course, all that anti-Semitism was ramped up by this bitch, who was quite happy to play along with the media and make sure that they really ramped up the anti-Semitic chants. And, of course, that allowed them to ramrod through laws in the parliament that now just place more coercion and control on we the people. Trust the AFP? Trust the new commissioner? Not so much. Not so much at all. I did say India are doing some interesting things. I don't know how it's going to affect the Indians in Parramatta, but certainly the ones back home might benefit from it. They've unleashed silver as a bank collateral with a 10-to-1 gold-silver ratio. Now, that is big news, particularly if you are in India, because at a gold-silver ratio of 10, you are much better off than anywhere else in the world. The current gold-silver ratio here is 83. So that means 83 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. The Indians are now suggesting they're going to say 10 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. That will revalue silver in that country significantly. Will it actually, or is it actually happening? Who knows? I don't have a great pipeline into India, although it's easy enough. You should just be able to pick up the phone. Somebody generally there from their answers. However, they may not want to share exactly what their precious metal buying is like. So if you happen to know what's going down on the ground in India, and if this revaluation of silver is true, I would be very, very interested in confirming it. That little piece, the reason I'm doubting it is because I've actually had that piece to show you now, I think, for 2 days. And I would have thought that a revaluation of that magnitude would be global news by now, and it doesn't really appear to be that way. Another thing that, appears to be one thing and then sadly is proving something else. And once again, I'm back at you people in Victoria. I'm sorry, you must think I'm picking on you, and I'm not. If anything, I feel so sorry for those people living in Victoria. I feel mortified that my daughter feels she has to move back there to be an auntie. And I'm going to be extremely angry because I'm going to wind up spending more bloody time back in Victoria to be closer to her and subject to these friggin' idiots. Now, in all good faith, this horrible piece of work, Alan, I couldn't deal with in any way, shape or form. And I did have some hope for the Victorian opposition until I met him.
Okay, I've got my itinerary through for my first trip over to China, and I'm really excited, but I'm looking for some recommendations. I'm heading to Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Suzhou and Hangzhou. It's really important that I ask you, what are the recommendations that you want? Because I love the Chinese food. I want to make sure I get the most authentic experience I can. Give me a challenge on some things that are spicy, some things that are sweet, and some things that are one of your favourite dishes from your hometown. Put it in the comments, it'll be passed to us, and I'm looking forward to my banquet that I can have from your recommendation whilst I'm in China in November.
小红书
I'm sorry, Victoria. What hope have you got? If that's the best you can muster up for opposition, what hope do you have? It's tragic, his trip over there is probably supported by a radio station or a TV station who no doubt will send media representatives, one of whom I know works for Channel 9. She was on the latest little jaunt that Jacinta Allen took to China. These are journalists who are deeply, deeply connected to their master's narrative, whether they actually believe it or not, or actually know the truth, I doubt. Most of them are caught up in their own ego and so full of their own importance that they wouldn't think that what they are doing is anything other than reporting the truth. And when you go to talk to them about it and you offer certain points to them that they find very difficult to come back at, well, you're the world's worst person. And, of course, conspiracy theorist, nut job, and somebody they thought was far more intelligent. Quite a few of those journalists have stopped working in the last 5 years. Some of them have died, tragically. Don't know why. Speaking of all things stupid going on in parliaments, our Senate is full of rather interesting people. But there is one woman who has been elected to the Senate. Her name is Mehreen Faruqi. And she had a bit to say about racism recently in the Senate and calling out just how racist. Well, hear from her yourself.
Just wow. We must be living in a parallel universe here, honestly. You would have thought that many of the coalition MPs and senators and Labour MPs and senators, you would have thought that they would perhaps understand the meaning of burning down the house, given that many of you white people in here claim English as your first language, that you would actually know what this means, or maybe some of you have heard the Talking Heads song Burning Down the House in the 80s, which is about liberation, it is about freedom, it is about breaking free. But no, for heaven's sake, this is a metaphor. It is a metaphor. Is it a figure of speech?
Order. Senator Faruqi. Order. Senator Ruston was heard in silence. Senator Faruqi, you have the call.
Like I said, for heaven's sakes, it's a figure of speech. It is a metaphor. But no.
Heard enough. This is a woman who's criticising Pauline Hanson for wrapping herself in the Australian flag, criticising Jacinta Napigira Price, what her name is, God, I've forgotten, isn't that awful, for wrapping herself in an Australian flag. And this thing is wrapped in one of those Indian kafu, whatever they are, in the Australian Parliament. The hypocrisy is just staggering. And for once, I think I'm probably going to have to agree with John.
And what a clustered fuck this is.
We've got them all through the Parliament. And it's why I got upset last night. It's why I get upset every day. It's because while they're in there, they can ignore us. They can abuse us mentally. They can abuse us physically, or have their minions do it, the police, who, interestingly, are having a shit time recruiting right across the nation at the moment. That is recruiting Aussies. They're having no problem recruiting people internationally. And you will notice in just about every state and territory advertisement, you will see someone of colour, probably a Sikh Indian, or a Pakistani, or maybe a Palestinian, or associated others. You are never going to see two white coppers, male or female, in the same ads, in the same frame, in the same ad. We don't trust the police force. And let's go to the Victorian crime figures to just prove why. Now, the criminals in charge of Victoria, that would be Jacinta Allen and co., released this report on crime in Victoria today. They released it along with 250 other reports and tried to bury this report way down at the bottom of it, hoping that people wouldn't get to it. Well, at least somebody at Sky News at least made an attempt at getting to it. And it has been quite enlightening, because it is going to prove with their own numbers just how ineffectual Victoria Police are. Sadly, it also expresses some other figures that you might find, well, maybe not surprising, but pretty bloody worrying. So these are performance metrics. Every year, the police force are given targets. We all knew they were. How many road speeders are you going to catch, and other things? Well, it goes a little bit different, or a little bit deeper than that. This paper that was released had 24 targets that were outlined for 24-25 financial year. Only 12 of the 24 targets were achieved. Only 12. And most of those 12 were only achieved because there was an increase in crime. Starting to wonder how the stats work. Show me stats and I can show you lies. Anybody can tell a story with statistics. But this story that is being told by the Victorian Police's own crime statistics tells a woeful, embarrassing story. Now, Victoria Police's target for crimes committed against the person, that's excluding family violence or domestic violence crimes, that was to keep that below a rate of 660 per 100,000 people. So they were aiming to keep the rate of crimes against people below 660 per 100,000 people. The actual rate, as it turned out, for 24-25 was 756. So a 14.5% increase, higher than the targeted amount. Crimes committed against property, that's excluding family violence. Victoria Police targeted 4,100 per 100,000 people. They missed that by 25.4%, with nearly 5,200 crimes per 100,000 people committed against property. They failed to hit their targets for, well, no surprise, solving crimes. Now, while you probably can't expect a 100% solving crime target, for crimes against the person, they did hope for better than the 35.9% that were resolved within 30 days. That's well below the 45% that they were hoping to be able to get solved within 45 days. The target for property and deception offences being resolved inside 30 days. Well, they missed that too by another 18.5%. It just keeps going up. Among the targets achieved was a number of community calls for assistance. That's one of the targets they got, the community calls for assistance. They targeted 900,000 community calls for assistance. They got 1,096,000, so a bit over 200,000 more. Because there's been an increase in crime. The community wants assistance. But clearly the police aren't able to provide it because their figures tell the truth. The real telling figures are a major fall in the community's perceptions about safety, with the number of Victorians who feel safe at home falling to 77.4%. That was in 23-24. Now it's fallen to 58.8%. And I would argue, since those figures were collated and put together, it would now be below 50% in Victoria. Victorians do not feel their police force is there to help Victorian people. The Victorian police force, on numerous occasions, has exhibited its complete and utter loyalty to the foreign corporation that is handing it its orders from Spring Street. They have no interest in working for the people. They have no interest in protecting the people over and above what they probably have to be seen to be doing. And as we all know, they will be seen to do those things and always try and trap us into some form of illegality that they can conflate into some twisted mess to hold up the court system for God knows how many years. The Victorian police have shown time and time and time again that they have no problem making false reports. They have no problem taking an oath and standing in front of a judge and repeating lies from the stand to try and gain convictions over crimes that, well, are they really crimes? And then, of course, I can't just blame this on Victorian police because it happens in most Australian police forces. The crimes that the coppers make up on the spot. Because they think, because they did police training and they got maybe 3 months of intensive law, that they understand the law. They think they can just make up an offence. And you can evidence some of that by having a look at the charge sheets and some of the stupid charges that have been levelled, not just by Victorian police, but by federal police, by New South Wales police, by Queensland police, against those of us who only wanted to express free speech, to offer a warning, to shout from the treetops, open your eyes, beware, have a second look, be discerning, wake up. Not good enough. And the battle still goes on for many. There are many doctors. In fact, there is one here in Queensland, a psychologist or a psychologist, who has been kicked out of the Queensland Health, or she's had to go to the Supreme Court and get a stay on it. So I don't know if she's still working at the hospital, but the hospital are not allowed to sack her just yet. But she has been sacked ostensibly, had to go to court to fight for her right to keep working. And Queensland Health are fighting her on this. Why? Because she doesn't believe that they should be treating tweens and teens for gender dysmorphia by cutting their boobs and balls off and filling them full of drugs. She believes that maybe the wait a while approach should be taken. Give them counseling. Wait until they get a little older, get a few more brain cells, get less influenced by woke parents or woke influences around them. And this woman is going to lose her job over it, and quite likely her license to practice, because they're going to do to her what they did to Billy Bay and many others. They're going to try very, very hard to make sure she cannot tell the truth, her truth, which is, in her experience, which is appearing to be quite extensive, it's probably not world's best practice to get a teenager who comes in one day and says, oh, I really think I'm a girl, straight on the puberty blockers. God, what a horrible thing for her to suggest. Clearly a criminal out of control, this woman. Anyway, if you'd like to support her, please do. And speaking of support, there are a ton of things happening at the moment where we do need your support. Not just financially here at the Voice of Freedom, but there are a number of petitions that are currently before the Parliament. Any number of them are going to close in the next couple of weeks, and there are a couple of them that are quite significant. I haven't prepared them, so we'll have them ready for tomorrow night. I want to talk about a couple of other things, although I'm going to get caught up in the chat. Going to get caught up in the chat. Look, while we're talking all things gold and silver, I'm picking up more of these tomorrow, and we'll be able to be sending out the orders that we currently have for the Byron Bobs. Now, there's an ounce of them in there, 1/10 of an ounce each coin. I think they're around about $11 worth at the moment, and you can use them if you can find a business that will trade a little bit of silver, and there are plenty of businesses that will if you offer it to them. But we call them the Byron Bob because in Byron Bay you can get fed, get a coffee, get most things of what you want in Byron Bay if you wave one of those around. And it doesn't have to be the little one. You can use its half big brother or its bigger brother, which is the full bob, if you like. So if you'd like some Byron Bobs, reach out, carl@vofhq.com. I know a lot of people are buying them for Christmas presents, which is great. And our price is going to come down again because if the price stays at what it is at the moment, I think we'll be back down to about $130 for these for this round of coins. So not coins, they're rounds. I must get that right. And we would love to be able to put some in your pocket because they truly are a little collectible bit from us, at least, the holder. But they're going to be a very useful little tool for you in coming days, weeks, and months. I'm sure of it. Speaking of things that could be useful, have you been over to FBN and checked out Vince's crypto show, Coin Toss? Now, he and Galactic Larry and Mark get together once a week or thereabouts and have a bit of a chat about what's going on in the world of crypto. Now, crypto's been up, crypto's been down, crypto's been up, crypto's been down, and I've been getting a lot of people contacting me about Nasara Jasara and the financial reset. Now, as late as today, as recently as today, I received an email telling me that the new financial system is currently working. It's just working alongside the old fiat financial system. And that's of no surprise to me. That's been going for well over a year now. However, when are they going to turn the fiat system off? Because it might be all well and good to know that the new system's running in the background, but it's of no benefit to you or I running in the background, is it? So noises. Dates get thrown out. Watch this space. There is noise saying the Vietnamese dong has already been affected. That's one of the markets where the revaluation has already happened. Of course, that was a bit of a surprise to me because I always thought it was going to be Iraq first up, the dinar. But anyway, maybe it's both of them. Who knows? I just know that the dong I've got doesn't seem to be getting any bigger. Pardon the pun. But if you are hanging on to your dong, hang on to it a bit longer. I'm going to stop there because somebody will complain. But if you do happen to know of any rapid dong expansion plans currently in Vietnam, please let me know. Very keen. Oh, speaking of people in Vietnam and dongs, the reason I have dong is simply down to one man. His name is Len, and Len is in hospital at the moment. Now, he's in Robina and on the Gold Coast, and he's been in there a week or so. I've got a few blood pressure issues. So, Len, just want to let you know that I'm thinking of you. I know I said I'd be down this week to pop in. I haven't been down the coast this week. I've been all over and unable to get anywhere I needed to go this week so far. Hopefully that'll change tomorrow. 3 days this week I've had a meeting to get to in the morning, and 3 days this week it's had to be changed. So that's no fun. I'm just having a bit of a cruise through your chats. Wow. That's a good price for lamb, $12. I don't know. Is that a good price for lamb, Silver Fox? I'm unsure. Speaking of food and paddock to plate kind of stuff, we're very interested in hearing from those of you who are running a small paddock to plate business or would like to. Now, it doesn't really matter at this stage what state you're in. We're more interested in finding out numbers in all states. But what can I say? If you might be interested in something like this and you would be prepared to put in a cool room so that meat could be stored for a short period of time before it could be picked up and delivered, there may well be something in the wind that you might be interested in lining up for. And it will have something to do with a fairly large truck coming onto your property and doing the slaughtering and then moving on. Maybe I've said too much. However, it will all depend on numbers, and then it will come down to you and your families. You'll be able to get top quality meat that will not have had to have been passed through a vaccination process before it comes to you, like every other abattoir in this country, particularly anything that's owned by JBS. They are now demanding or are pre-vaccinating everything that goes onto their feedlots. So they're getting this shit into us one way or the other. So we are looking for clean farms, clean animals, and the ability to run a little business out of it. And the idea is that you do make $1 out of it. You're not going to be selling meat and giving it away for nothing. What we need to do, though, is provide a dedicated customer base so that those folks who might like to buy or can team up with a family and or a couple of families get together and buy a beast, for instance, and get the whole cow. And you might only need to do that twice a year, and you'll be able to feed, depending on how hungry and how big your families are, you might feed 4 families like that for a year. Now, that's going to help out our local producers, and it's going to help out you with great quality Australian produced meat that isn't going to be filled with things that might do you some harm. And God knows we need that pretty much in every form, whether it be vegetables, whether it be chicken, pork, whatever. And I know that there are plenty of producers who are able to provide clean stock for that sort of thing. I also know that there are some regulations involved, and we're not looking at breaking regulations here. We are looking at having some modified. The other thing that I would like to bring to people's attention is something that I thought was long lost from this country and just about every other one. But Apparently, I am significantly wrong, as I quite often am. I'm talking about cattle rustling. Who knew that in this day and age, cattle rustling is a thing? And it certainly is a thing. I know people who know a lady north of me, north of the Sunshine Coast, who had a property or has a property, and she invested quite a lot of money to put on cattle that she could grow, that she could use to supplement her income by selling as she required, or obviously having more on the property so that she could sustain her cow herd over longer years. And bugger me dead, in one night, cattle rustlers came into her property through a fence down the back of nowhere and took them. Took them all. Now, okay, the country's pretty big. You could go and put them out on your property and let them eat your grass, but why would you do that? Because every one of them's got a tag in their ear. And this lady knew her tags. And she and her daughter decided they were going to go and have a look. Now, what happens apparently with these rustlers is that they will steal the stock and sell them to abattoirs as what they call choppers or headers or something like that. That means that the abattoir looks the other way and pays the thieves maybe $1,000 a beast, if they're lucky. Maybe $1,000 a beast. Whereas that beast would ordinarily get somewhere over $2,000 if it was going to the abattoir with the owner of it. And what does the abattoir do with the tags that identify the beast and where it came from, the property and the owner? Well, it removes those tags and throws them in a bucket and tries to keep them out of sight. But unfortunately weren't smart enough, particularly one of them on the southeast Queensland border. About 450 kilometres south of where the cattle came from, this lady and her daughter found 40 of her cows already lined up, ready for the chop. And she found all of the tags in the bucket at the abattoir. What could she do? Nothing. The abattoir had already bought them. They were going through the process. They weren't giving her any money. And there's another little loophole too. Apparently it's got to do with state borders. So if you actually run cattle along a state border, you must deal with rustling pretty hard, because that's what the sneaky pricks do. They'll steal them from one state and run them just over the border to an abattoir in the other. And they've got it down as a business. Robbie Catter was talking about it recently. They've had 3 very large herds stolen in far north Queensland. Now, this lady had $40,000 worth of cows, and that was just what the abattoir paid for them. They were worth 2.5 times that, had they been legitimately sold. But was there any blowback on the JBS abattoir that took this meat, that took these beasts that they could have shown and proven with a very, very simple check weren't belonging to the people who fronted with them? No, that's not their job. So I wonder, do we even have stock inspectors, cattle inspectors anymore? Do we actually have a stock squad anymore? I know we used to. The only reason I know we used to is because there was a bloke in my town who got busted for rustling. But that was sheep, I think, from memory. And he went to jail for some time for it. It's a serious crime. So keep an eye out. And if you are looking for cheap meat, then let's see what we can do about getting some coming your way through our own network of producers and through our own network of distributors. It might mean that you've got to, meet the truck in a car park somewhere at, 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night to pick up your order. Or it might mean that there are depots in certain places where we can keep stuff cold and you can go and pick it up from there. But there will be costs involved with all of that. What we're trying to do here is make it as cost effective as possible. So anything in the food chain, if you can provide it and you're interested in selling it, and there are many people who are interested in buying it, we're looking at a business directory that hopefully will be able to feed off itself, so to speak. So a business directory, if you grow plant A, plant B, meat A, meat B, we will be able to provide you a list of businesses that will offer you whatever the going rate is to be able to provide whatever you can to their business. Now, where the big supermarkets have it over us on this plan is the simple fact of supply. They have a lot of supply. They've got a lot of shit snap frozen in huge freezers all over the country and a network of trucks to deliver it. The problem is what happens when the network of trucks can't move. So that's where those people who have smaller transport requirements will be able to get around. So we're going to try as hard as we can to give you a bit of a backup and to get to a position where this can become something of a regular buy for you. And I know my place in Victoria, we're able to instigate this for a while at least with oranges and stuff coming out of Mildura. There was talk there for a while of some meat and other grains, I want to say it was, maybe coming out of Western Victoria. Not sure how far that ever went or what stopped it if there were stops put in. But we're going to re-explore it because it is something that we're all going to need in the near future. And God knows when we push back this corrupt, belligerent, foreign occupying force, they're probably going to push back in their own way, and relying on Coles or the big supermarkets isn't going to help us, not in any way, shape or form. So bear that in mind, and if you can help out, we would love to hear from you folks. Just before I go, climate is something we're all paying a lot of attention to at the moment. I received a little bit of information today indicating that this summer is likely to be the worst on record for storms in particularly Queensland. There is likely to be some pretty big storms hitting Western Australia as well, and across the top in the Northern Territory. But also being warned of very, very strange storms that are going to come out of places where storms have never come before. And these storms are going to be cyclonic in nature. And Adelaide was mentioned as one of the places that was going to be targeted with these man-made, man-generated storms. And if you ever doubted that they could do this kind of thing, I would simply invite you to just go and have a look at the US Patent Office and type in that patent number. Don't take my word for it. Go and have a look through the patents and see exactly how they can not just modify, they can create a weather pattern and they can intensify it or de-intensify it at will. And they do that with the energy beams that we've seen up until recent changes at the bomb on Doppler radar. But now they've dumbed the Doppler radar down. They've taken out the sensitivity to it. And who knows what sort of shit they are firing off into our atmosphere at the moment while we can't see it. Not that they'd cared before. Why would they care now? Whether we can or we can't see it. The bastards can't be trusted. That's all I would like to tell you, folks. The bastards cannot be trusted. Before I go, social media platforms have admitted that they are verifying user ages, and it's likely going to involve surrendering personal IDs. That's the latest news regarding our I'm Not 16 proof that's going to be coming up thanks to the eSafety Karen in December. Do we think this is really going to happen? I don't know. There is so much pushback coming from, well, so much legal framework and legal pushback being put out by the big companies, the Metas of the world, but they are also making all the noises like they are going to play along with it. And in fact, YouTube, under the guise of helping creators, is now offering a facial recognition system, which means I've got to go through a rigmarole. If I want to do this, I have to go through a rigmarole of letting it digitally identify me, so then it can go and scour the web for anybody who might be impersonating me or any AI constructs of me. What a great way of getting a digital version of me. Don't think I'll be playing that game. Don't think I'll be playing that game at all. All right, folks, going to love you and leave you tonight. Tomorrow's a big day. Got to be on the road for a little while tomorrow, and hopefully I'll catch up with a few of you in different places. If that is the case and you happen to be one of them, I'm looking forward to it. And if not, well, I'll see you next trip. Be safe out there, folks. If you are going to be on the roads, then I think the weather tomorrow is calling for more thunderstorms in southeast Queensland. That'll make it a little more difficult on the roads, especially if you're a dickhead. Harder for us to avoid them too. Be safe.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!